Supreme Court heard arguments this week in a case that on the surface focuses on birthright citizenship, but is raising deeper questions about the power of federal courts and the use of nationwide injunctions. Let's get some more insight by turning to Leah Litman, law professor at the University of Michigan. We'll note you're also a former Supreme Court clerk. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, no justice has expressed support for the legality of President Trump's idea to revoke birthright citizenship, which does appear to conflict directly with the text of the 14th Amendment. How did one of the president's first executive orders end up at the High Court?
So the legal question that the justices are focused on in this case is a question of remedy and procedure. It's about a tool that lower courts have used to actually prevent the president from violating the law. It's called nationwide injunctions. And it's about whether district courts can tell the administration to stop a policy on a nationwide basis outside of the state where they are located. And it seemed like the Supreme Court was inclined to limit the use of that tool to keep the executive within the bounds of the law.
Let's go specifically back to birthright here real quick. As much of the talk by the justices has focused on how a ban would even function, Justice Kavanaugh asking, what do hospitals do with a newborn?
One of the more shocking things about the oral argument is that the Solicitor General, the lawyer for the federal government, basically told Justice Kavanaugh he didn't know how it would work. He said they hadn't yet had an opportunity to implement the policy because lower courts had blocked it, as if the administration was just going to experiment and try things out on a trial by error basis when it comes to babies and citizenship.
Let's look more broadly again here. The Trump administration says federal judges have exceeded their authority in temporarily blocking some of his policy moves for the whole country. How do you expect justices to approach that issue?
I think they are inclined to narrow lower courts' ability to use nationwide injunctions, directions to the administration to stop implementing a policy across the country, and that they are going to reserve for themselves, the United States Supreme Court, the power to block policies on a nationwide basis. Now, I don't think they are going to abolish, that is, prohibit courts from ever using nationwide injunctions, but they are likely to severely restrict it and require lower courts to make additional findings, consider additional factors, and use other procedural mechanisms before they do so.
And we expect a ruling fairly quickly.
So we don't actually know because the Supreme Court took this emergency application off of what's called its shadow or emergency docket and scheduled it for oral argument. A decision could come at any time. It's also possible the justices might request additional briefing that would delay the case even further. But ordinarily, we expect decisions in argued cases before the end of June.
Is there anything in the arguments that stood out to you?
One of the things that definitely stood out to me is the Solicitor General, the lawyer for the federal government, indicated that it was the federal government's position that they actually don't have to follow the reasoning of a trial court decision or a court of appeals decision, and they might reserve the ability not to follow them at all. So that if, let's say, the Second Circuit, the court overseeing the New York, or the Ninth Circuit, the court overseeing California, concluded that the order was illegal and that a particular child should be a United States citizen, the administration reserved the ability to continue to apply the illegal order to other children, other individuals who hadn't sued in that case. That would create a chaotic system that would truly make it difficult for every child guaranteed birthright citizenship to protect their own citizenship and rights.
All right, we'll have to leave it here. I appreciate your time and your expertise. Professor Leah Litman at the University of Michigan. Thank you again.
Thanks.